Welcome back to the channel. Today you're joining us for the build up and the fitting of our Time Attack Championship winning engine into our new FK8 race car. So we have a little bit of history with this engine. This was actually in our grey FK8 that we ran in 2019 through Time Attack. We actually ran in the Club 2-wheel drive series in the UK Time Attack and won the championship with this exact engine. Since the engine's come out of the car, we've done a small refresh on it and we've jumped up a size on the pistons. But previously, the format of the engine was we used Sayen's S-series rods, Trom pistons, and we were on an 86.5. We've now jumped up to an 87mm piston, but this also had a 4-piston cylinder head. So in the 4-piston cylinder head, we had the CNC port job done, and we also opted for Ferreira valves, valve springs, and the guides. That was a pretty solid engine, like I said. It stood the testament of time over that Time Attack series. We won the championship, and like I said, there's no reason why we can't refresh this and then get it straight into the new car. Okay, so on this engine, like I said, it's been sitting on the shelf for a couple of years, and I've been pinching little bits and pieces off of this engine as and when I've needed them for other jobs. But as I've got a spare donor here, I'm going to put across the bits that I need, get some of the ancillaries built on, the gearbox has got to come across as well, get this ready to go back in the car. So let's get on with it. You would have seen from our first video on this car is we got a box load of gaskets that came, amongst all the spares. So of course we're going to be replacing all the gaskets on this as it goes back together. Also at the same time, it gives us a chance to show off a few of our heat lagged products. So we'll have the turbo shell going on, the oil drain, and the hard lag water pipe here as well. You may have noticed I've been fitting up the standard turbo on this one. So previously we ran with the Mitsubishi MHI turbo. That was fantastic. You guys have been using them yourselves, you know how they respond. They're a really good turbo. We may go for one of these on this engine, although later this month I've also got some PRL P600s turning up. We've got 5 or 6 of those, so one of them may also find its way onto here, depending. We'll run them both on the dyno, see what we get, and whatever we feel is going to be good for this car this time around, then we'll fit up. But it's likely to see a bit more power, so I'm inclined to go for the P600. Before I get myself stuck on the floor with a heavy engine, I'm going to whip the gearbox off now, get the other engine picked up and onto this trolley, ready to load in the car, because as I put more and more ancillaries across that one, it's going to be too heavy to lift. So get this gearbox cracked off. Just before this goes together then, to touch on what we've got gearbox and clutch wise. So on the clutch we're using a twin plate extreme organic clutch. This was the one that we ran in Time Attack, so I know it's tried and tested. It had plenty of life left on the friction plates, so it was cleaned up and reused again. In regards to the gearbox, this is the gearbox that came with the car. Like we spoke about before, it's got the FK2 oil cooler for quick removal and refit the gearbox. But this gearbox inside is pretty much standard throughout, other than a Cusco 2A LSD. So it feels really clunky when I'm driving it around the car park here. So I'm really interested in seeing what this one's going to be like on track, because we've got previous experience with some of the Quaves on track, so it'd be nice to get a good comparison of a plated diff. So another little difference I've just picked up on the two engines here. Obviously this one's come from the FK8, this was our FK8, but like I said, it's refreshed and shelved. But in doing so, I think it looks like we fitted an FK2 sump. So if you see down the bottom here, this is where the usual engine mount bracket will go onto the back there, whereas the FK8 is then centre mounted with the usual sort of dog bone mount along there. And I'll put it back into the car, but once the engine's back in the car, I'll then strip the sump off and just do a quick swap over. Okay, so you'll see I've just had the downpipe off there to put the bottom turbo bracket on and the drain pipe shield. But in taking the downpipe off, I've come across a nice little surprise. So these are really common for snapping studs, especially due to the amount of heat that's coming through the turbo, passing through this back section here. And you'll see there, we've actually got a snap bolt in the bottom of this turbo. But like I said, this one's not going to be in there for too long. I'm going to get the car running again, get it mobile. We've got a lot of work to do with the aero. So for the time being, all intents and purposes, this will do. This will get us running again. So I'll put it back together for now and hopefully be replaced soon. So I'm just whipping off the housing for the vacuum pump here. We don't use any servo assist on the brakes on this car, so what Honda did is they welded up the end here and blanked it off, so we'll just be switching that over. But before we do so, the thermostat housing needs to get back on underneath here. So last couple of bits as we're getting together with the engine now, so it'll be thermostat housing, the blanking plate there, then a wiring loom, and I think we're about ready to start loading it back in. So that's the engine hanging back in the car now. I'm going to take the car back up, get the drive shafts in, subframe on, and then work the car back down to where I can finish up on top. Then hopefully the engine complete and we can go for a fire up. This is the sump that I just removed from the engine that's hanging in the car now. Now we've already identified that we've got a different mounting point in the back here, but we've also got a oil level sensor that's featured on European cars. On the sump that we're going to be fitting onto the car, I've just got to do a bit of a clean up now, so I'll go around the edges with a blade initially, then over it with a bit of scotch, then a wash down. That should then be ready to be Honda bonded around the edges. The same procedure on the bottom of the block in the car. So again, clean up, wash down, and then ready to be bonded back together. That's the majority of the bits fitted up underneath now. So I've got the drive shafts on, a couple of pipes up the front here, but it now leads me to the subframe. So on the subframe, just before I fit it up, I'm going to fit a eye-back anti-roll bar. Now to do this, I'm going to have to remove the steering rack, just a couple of bolts here either side, pull that out of the way to get to the anti-roll bar mountings itself, whip that out, new one in, and then we'll get this fitted up. Okay, so the frame's back on now. I've got it hanging on all the bolts, so I've loosely put in all the bolts on the knuckles, the track rod ends, the actual frame itself. Now, I've just had it hanging in there just to centralise itself, get its position. I'll go around, nip it all up now, bring it down, tighten up the hub nuts on the drive shafts, and then back down to the bottom where we can carry on with the pipe work. With the wheels back on, that brings me to a point where I can show off a little tool I've been waiting to show you guys. Now this tool, it was developed by Synchro themselves in-house. It's just to aid the fitting of the wheels quickly in pit sessions. Now this is a 90mm socket, 5x120, half-inch drive with magnets in the end for the wheel nuts. So effectively, these can be sitting in the pits with a wheel ready to go, so you just spin the old ones off, new nuts on, and away the car's gone again. I don't think we're really going to be needing the use of this in time attack that we're going to be racing in, but it's just a nice little opportunity to use the tool as we've got it sitting there. That looks to be everything back together now, so I'll get the coils disconnected, crank it over some oil pressure and see if we can get it fired up. Okay, so the coils are reconnected now. We've got oil pressure on the crank over then. We'll go for the start now, but with the fact that we've taken port injection off of the engine and we haven't taken into consideration a map for that, I don't think we're going to get the start. Thanks so much for watching. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. We'd really like to ask you to go and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave us comments below on what you're actually thinking of the build. Now remember, we're running this car in the UK 2022 Time Attack series, and this is going to be featuring across circuits all across the UK, Brands Hatch, Cadwell Park. Please feel free to come and to join us, show your support, and see how quick we can get this going around all of those circuits. You can find a link to the 2022 Time Attack series in the description below. Now please come along, show your support, and come cheer us on.